Oh, excuse me. Hello. I was just enjoying the feeling of new beginnings. I am coming at you fresh off the I am moving and packing up my life boat. The Sydney CBD property market has suddenly decided that since Australia is apparently out of something rhyming with my Sharona and international students are flooding back, that, the landlord thought the smartest thing to do would be to increase the rent by at least $65 per week. So I did what many of us might do, and I weighed the pros and the cons of the situation and whether I could possibly bend over further to the Sydney property market. Like many of you clever gems, I also prefer to invest my money rather than constantly pay the increased rental prices here. You want to spend your money investing in assets that actually give you a return on your investment. So I responded quickly by leaving and moving into a cheaper apartment. Cheaper also means smaller. But being smaller just means I have to start getting Spartan with my stuff. I am still living out of some boxes from the previous move and living out of boxes now again as I unpack. It's quite funny. You realize, how much stuff can I possibly fit into a shoebox? Well, but the best part of where I'm currently living now is it has wooden floors. I love wooden floors. I feel that carpet is kind of like walking on layers of dead skin cells. Like no matter how much you clean it, it just feels like some kind of SVU crime scene material. So what to expect when moving into a Sydney CBD apartment? The process of finding an apartment can be quite stressful and disheartening. Gonna be honest, Firstly, there's the average rental price per week of an apartment in the Sydney CBD. It's expensive. I've gone into the costs of renting in the Sydney City CBD before in a previous video, so feel free to check that out. I'll drop a link to that video below. But right now, compared to the average rental price of Sydney apartments before my Sharona hit, they're even more expensive now. Something's happened. It's gone up in a much more massive way. There usually was that every year the landlord would increase your rent by $5, $10 a week, that kind of thing. But the jump has been pretty massive this time around. Bigger rents are back on the menu, boys. To give you an idea, the average price of an apartment studio, that means no bedroom. You wake up from your bed, look up, and there is your kitchen. No car parking space. If you can find a rental for $550 a week, that's pretty cheap. If you want a place that's furnished, then you're looking at about $590 a week. And if you're looking at a one-bedroom place that actually has a bedroom, not just the studio that's one, I'll show you. Window, kitchen, window, kitchen, laundry, bathroom. But if you're looking at a one bedroom, you're guaranteed $600 plus per week easy without a car parking space. Again, this car parking space, chuck another $100 a week on top of that. Secondly, there's the application process. This is where it gets a little stressful because you really don't know who else is going to be applying for the exact same apartment as you. To apply, you need to physically inspect the apartment. The rental agent will be standing there at the door greeting everybody, taking everyone's names, QR codes, whatever their method of recording people's attendances. You have to physically be there. I had a real problem when I moved to Sydney from Melbourne. Despite having a perfect rental history and being responsible, and being able to show I could pay the rental bond and not an issue, they will refuse to take anyone's application if you haven't physically inspected the apartment. So that led to a complete disaster where I had to hire a van, sleep in the van, and then it was so dodgy. Like if you have to go into Gumtree for an apartment because landlords won't take you to apply for a rent. Don't be surprised if there is a queue outside the rental inspection opening times, whole pile of people waiting out front to be taken up in the elevator to go and inspect the shoebox. To actually apply once you've physically inspected the apartment, then you have to go online and apply using, often a common site is OneForm, and there you have to fill in your details. You need all your ID, so uploading things like your driver license or passport, upload your income or pay slips, fill in your past rental history going back at least 5 years, which can be really annoying when you've moved around every 12 months. You've just got this backlog of all of these rentals you've been in. And also indicate which of your future children you're willing to sacrifice. That's pretty much what the form will look like, and then you hit send. But you will note, and this is something that's really strange, is, well, I guess not, because it's all about the, someone who's fully loaded can literally outbid you and you won't even know about it. In the section that has the rental amount per week on the online form, interestingly, it's able to be varied so that what it's created are tenants entering into bidding wars against each other where you don't know what somebody else is bidding. You can increase that rental amount per week. So you could be applying for a property where somebody else is offering $50 more a week just because they want to secure that. So, and you have no idea because it doesn't tell you how many other people are applying and whether they're increasing the rent. So it helps to have rental agencies on your side when you're applying online for these apartments. If you can rent through the same agency for a number of years, you build up that reputation, that trust. For example, the current real estate agents that I am working through, I've been with them for probably 7 years now. So my real estate agents, they have a long history of me being trustworthy, paying my rent on time, getting 100% bond return because I don't break things and I don't have wild parties and destroy the carpet, things like that. By having that reputation and building that trust with your real estate agents, what can happen is they can actually refer you to the owner of the property and say, this is a really good tenant, they're long-term, they're stable, they always pay their rent on time. Because what usually happens is it will come down to the owner of the property will have to make a decision as to whether they're going to go for somebody who's offered to pay $50 a week more, but they're unknown, they may not have a long history in Australia or in Sydney, they might be not known by the real estate agents, they might be a tourist, we don't know what the situation is. Or they try to go with someone, say they've got years of history of paying on time, they've built the trust, and if the real estate agent is giving a reference, that's very strong. So word of mouth is really powerful, and that's how it worked out for me. I didn't have to get a million references. My real estate agent literally vouched for me, and that is how I got this place. Another thing to note is building community when you're living in the CBD is kind of really weird. It's not like, the far out suburbs where people tend to live in their houses, they've got mortgages, they've got the dog and the kids, and they all grow up in the neighborhood together. There's such a high turnover of tenants in Sydney properties that you won't know who's living next door to you, and they usually move out before you get a chance to actually know them. There are a lot of travellers, students, many of the owners of the properties don't even live in Australia, so there is not that neighbourly connection. A lot of rentals get turned over every 3 to 6 months. I was living in an apartment here in Sydney 2 apartments ago, and I was there for 5 years, and that's considered, ancient. And the people next door in the next apartment, there were so many turnovers of tenants that I didn't know who my neighbours were. So every 3 months, every 6 months, you just hear doors slam, slam, slam. You walk down the hallway and, who's that? You have no idea who your neighbours are. So it's a little more challenging to build community, which is probably why I'm building one online with you all, because it is a little bit, isolating in the city. You wouldn't think with so many people around that it would be a little isolating, but it actually is. So there's no community. It's often students, just people who are workaholics. They live in the city, work in the city, and you don't really see anyone. It's pretty quiet. Upper levels, and you'll notice there's definitely a difference on the kind of tenants depending on, it sounds so elitist, but this is the practical reality, is the higher up on the levels of an apartment complex, the more expensive the rentals are, like the penthouse versions, and the rental price increases, but also the tenants become usually a little bit more stable. So if you want to make friends, it requires a specific dedication to that process. Recently, I have been making small conversation with an elderly gentleman who clearly lives in one of the rich level complexes. I see him randomly in the lift or in the foyer on occasion. But I'm not living on the rich, ultra rich level, but I get to meet everybody because we all have to use the same elevators. So you can be around rich energy without spending a fortune on the apartment. So a bit of a tip too, you want to live somewhere that's safe. Once you've got the safety factor out of the way, go for one of the cheapest apartments in that complex, because you're still going to have all the facilities and the safety and pleasant people to at least be around if you're going to live somewhere. That would be my tip to try and keep costs as low as possible, is get the cheaper apartment in a rich building. So how I make friends here is I literally make friends with the cafe owners, the local business owners, because they're going to be around for a number of years. I make friends of the concierge staff and building management, my real estate agents, of course. That's the only longevity that's guaranteed living in the city. I won't be able to have guests over, assuming that I do have friends, but I wouldn't be able to have many people over that have to brace the wall because there's literally no room to swing a gap. I discovered what this is for. You'd think I'd have less things to move. I'm gonna be like that Homer Simpson episode now. Blinds go up, blinds go down. Want to come over to an elite stand-up only room? It's very popular. Just stand on the balcony. Actually, that's the biggest space here. But the way I see it is I'm hiring a box to put a mattress to sleep. Inside is not where you come to live life. It's just to rest your head, because life is out there, Bilbo. On that note, I'm going to go now. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. I really didn't think I had a lot of stuff. And just moving, it's amazing how exhausting it is. And you realize you've got just random stuff, like an Indiana Jones hat. You think, why did I? Oh, I know why. I can go to sleep and just